Who was it said that observing the United States is like watching an epic movie? Oscar Wilde?
Woody Allen?
Max Headroom. Just think, they've got an actor for a president, economic advisors called projectionists. Even their latest defense strategy is named after a film, Star Wars. And why pick on that one? Why not something gentler, like Kramer versus Kramer? And of course, everywhere in the world to them is just a theater of operations, except when they're fighting in it. And then it's a theater of war.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains themes and language not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, Cyberpunkins. I'm getting hype this time. This is the High Tech Low Life podcast with your hosts, Eric and Josh. I'm Eric.
I'm Josh.
We watch and critically go over cyberpunk media of the past decades with a fine-toothed comb, and we're here to do it again with this week's special, Max Headroom, 20 minutes into the future.
Yes, it's pretty exciting.
I will just lead off right out of the gate and say that I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I expected. I've enjoyed this whole Max Headroom project more than I expected. And I'm not sure why that is, but it's been hitting me in the spots I like to be hit.
It's a real deeply weird fucking artifact.
Yes.
It's real fucking weird, but it was really spot on.
Yeah.
In a bunch of ways I didn't expect.
Agreed. We'll dig into it in depth here in a few minutes. Before we do that, though, we're going to start the show with some other stuff. So the first thing I wanted to lead off with, we're actually recording this one closer to the release date than the ones we've done in the past, because it's been a busy week.
Yeah.
So we can actually talk a little semi-current events. And I wanted to mention the earthquake in Turkey and Syria because it's a fucking bummer, and it's been really hanging over at least my actions all week. Have you heard about this?
Oh, I have in fact heard about it.
I was gonna feel bad if I was like breaking this news to you a week and a half after the fact.
Wait, what?
Pretty big thing happened, Josh. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a bummer, and I feel for everyone involved, and I just wanted to say, I don't want to like get too deep into it because I don't really know that much about it, except to say that if you got a few extra bucks to kick over to those folks, you might do it. I would recommend looking into like the white helmets in northern Syria, just because Turkey was the epicenter, but at least they have a functional government, and I feel like Syria does not. And in fact, what government they do have is benefited by not helping the survivors of this. So as far as I can tell, the white helmets are the group over there doing the most work to help those people out. So if you got anything, man, it'd be nice.
Yeah. Another charity that's on the ground over there. I think they're in Syria as well as Turkey. Jose Andres' World Central Kitchen. They're over there feeding a bunch of people.
Oh, they're over there? Awesome.
Apparently, that's literally all he does anymore, which is
good,
great. Good for him. He's got the fucking money.
I wish we were all in a position to do that, to have the option to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
also, as always, look into any charity you're giving money to and make sure it's actually getting to people that need it. It's hard these days.
that's an irritating caveat to need to mention, but yes, absolutely.
That's really all I had to say about that. I just wanted to mention it up top. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which also, I don't know. It just is what it is. This is our 4th episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably should have said this at the beginning, at the first episode. But over this week, so I'm doing my thing. What I do when we have a new podcast, I'm out there trying to get our. I'm not spamming, but you gotta try to get involved in the discourse that's going on out there in your topic of choice, right? So I'm searching cyberpunk stuff on Twitter. I'm searching Neuromancer. I'm liking posts. I'm trying to contribute where I can. And I've just noticed that in the cyberpunk community, it's not always a nice place. There are some bad people out there, or at least some people with some really bad societal views, right?
I mean, I don't know that specifically, but but it kind of doesn't shock me because people are really incredible at not understanding things that they read or watch or.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, like the lessons, and we've talked about before with the what do you call it, the terror machine or whatever. That,
yeah, the horror vortex or whatever it was. Yeah,
right. But the lessons of cyberpunk and science fiction usually are not subtle. I don't feel like William Gibson was subtle in saying that this is not a world we want to inhabit. But people are dumb, I guess. So anyway, I just wanted to say right out of the box, episode 4, and we'll see in our numbers in the future if we have a drop off of listeners that listened to the first 3 and then bounced. We are not down with NFTs for one thing. A lot of cyberpunk NFT people.
Okay, I definitely knew that was out there.
Yeah, that is not our bag. And we think people who are into that are usually bad people looking to exploit other people or just dumb people being exploited.
Yeah.
We're not down with fascists, obviously. We're not down with transphobes or homophobes. We fucking hate that shit. We hate cops. So if you're like not on that wavelength, you might just want to bounce because it's only going to get worse listening to this show from here.
Yeah, at this point, I don't see anything likely pushing us towards drifting in the other direction politically.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I'm like, really, everything for about the past 15 years has just pushed me further and further and further left and woke.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I don't see that changing.
It turns out having a mostly fascist president and then a worldwide pandemic really turned this little fledgling libertarian into a pretty far leftist really quick, actually. And yeah, that tide is not shifting, or rather that current is not reversing. So I don't know. I don't want those people listening to us. And if they're out there in the cyberpunk world and they are listening, it's fine to have differing political opinions, but if you're a fucking fascist, then fuck off.
If your differing political opinion is some people shouldn't exist based on, their inherent qualities, whether it be skin color or, gender or anything like that, then that's not a political opinion. You can go get fucked.
Even if you think cyber spurs are cool.
Yeah. I mean, look, I get it. Who doesn't want some sort of cool, arm that's metal? But don't listen to our show.
All right. I don't know. I just felt like we never explicitly stated it up front. We've hinted around it, but we're social justice warriors, and I don't feel any shame in that fucking phrase.
I guess the reason that it never came up, and we probably should have dropped that in the first episode, is I think I was operating on the assumption like, okay, everybody here has heard us before.
Well, yeah, the people who are listening are and have been from our other shows are cool. I'm just saying, if we get new listeners, which I'm hoping maybe we get a couple in the future.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
And so far, I think we've gained a couple. Our numbers are on a very slow but steady upwards trend.
Yes. Speaking of which,
because
thank you to patrons.
Oh yeah, should we shout out patrons? Before we do, I also wanted to say that there are a lot of cool people in the cyberpunk world too, and I don't want to like. One thing that bothers me about content creators is they really focus on the negative, I feel like, a lot of times. And maybe that's because we're such low-level content creators that we don't get a lot of hate.
Yeah.
But I'll see somebody talk about a bad comment they received, and then I'll scroll through and see just like so much love, and I never see people talk about the love, and it feels bad. So I don't want to only point out the bad stuff in the internet, because there's a lot of cool people in the cyberpunk space that I hope we can, interact and collab with in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think our experience with that has been extraordinarily colored by the fact that the vast majority of people who tuned in for an episode or two of any number of our podcasts basically went, not for me, bye. And,
And that is valid. That is a valid critique of us.
Extremely valid.
Did you want to shout out patrons? Like by name? Or I was kind of thinking I should ask them if they're okay with having their names shouted out.
Oh,
a lot of them use real names.
That's actually a good idea.
I'll send that message out on Patreon. But until then, if you are currently signed up, thank you. It is very cool.
Know that we love you, and it's really neat that you would do that for us.
And we should have another patron-only post of us watching the thing we're talking about today coming out pretty soon. I haven't fully decided how often I want to release them, but it's ready to go. So, that's on the way.
Yay! So let's see. We did breaking news. You got any recommendos?
I've got. I don't know if they're recommendos. I can tell you what I watched.
Okay. I mean, it's, same diff.
Yeah, it's a semi-recommendo. I didn't hate it. Not Friday, but the Friday before, my wife and I played hooky and went to a movie in the middle of the day.
Ooh.
And we went to see the movie Megan, with the 3 is really an E. But bought the tickets in advance, got there, and the lady's like, your ticket's not scanning. Oh, well, just go in. It's theater 14. So we buy a shit ton. Like, it was midday. We bought a shit ton of snacks, like $50 worth of theater snacks. So like a little tiny thing of popcorn.
Yeah.
And we go.
And a 55-gallon drum of root beer.
Yeah. We were also really early. So we went and noticed that the lights were on. So we sat outside and kind of waited. And finally, it's like 5 minutes till, like, all right, let's go in. And we go in, and there's a guy who's like, this movie's been canceled, guys. And so I had...
shit, did Megan say something?
Yeah, Megan's been canceled. No. I had to go to the front, and the lady's like, oh, yeah, the Megan showing's been canceled. And the ticket taker didn't realize this. So anyway, it was a...
Well, that explains why it wouldn't scan.
Yeah, exactly. And... she was like, I can get you to the 4:00 showing. And I'm like, I don't want to go home and come back in 2 hours. That's really dumb. So is there anything else playing? So we went to M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And also got 4 free movie passes to AMC out of the deal. This is before they announced their price increase. So
all right.
Score? I don't know. But Knock at the Cabin was, it was... I mean, it was free, so I guess it was okay.
Yeah? Was Dave Bautista compelling?
Dave Bautista was very good. He was one of the best parts of the movie. Him, and I can't remember the actor who plays Andrew in the film. I enjoyed him a lot.
Jonathan Groff, I think?
Not the guy from Mindbreaker, whatever the...
Oh, okay.
The other one. I mean, he was fine too, but Mindhunter, yeah. But I really liked the other character who was just kind of hyper aggressive and defensive and just beat the shit out of people at the hot drop of a hat. I liked him.
Okay.
Because that's what I would be if I was put in the situation these characters are, which I won't spoil. But I don't know. Overall, it was kind of mad, but it was an interesting premise. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm. How'd your wife feel about it?
About the same as me.
Yeah.
You just walked out like, well, I mean, it wasn't a dancing robot doll, but I guess it was fine. Anyway, that's all I got.
Okay. I have two, like, I don't know, again, one of them I would call a recommendo. The other was just a thing I watched. The thing I watched was Wednesday on Netflix. Yeah. It is fine.
Okay. It's kind of what it looked like. That's why I never watched it.
The girl who plays Wednesday is pretty entertaining.
Is it Jenny Ortega?
Yes.
Jenny?
Who?
Is that right?
Jenna? I think that's right.
Jenna?
Oh, that might be right. Yeah. Yeah, she was in, what was that movie? X. And I think Scream. She was in Scream movies. I don't know.
I don't know anything about Scream, even though it was created by someone very important to my life.
That's shocking and appalling.
All right. Sorry.
I don't know if I can do this podcast anymore.
Sorry, America.
I also would like to say for the record, I think I saw Scream 2. I've definitely seen Scream 1 because I watched that, like, I don't know, a year or so ago and was really impressed with how well put together a movie it was.
Yeah, I watched it too and it was new, I'm sure.
Yeah, but yeah, that's my total exposure to the Screamiverse.
All right. Anyway, Wednesday gets a solid meh. File it next to Knock at the Cabin for it was fine.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, like, Luis Guzman is Gomez, and he's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, but Catherine Zeta-Jones is no Angelica Houston. You know.
I mean, okay.
Okay.
I thought I had an opinion, but I mean, Angelica Houston is one of a kind.
Yeah, she really is. The other thing, which I will give a recommendo to, is a television program that I think has fairly recently wrapped up its third season on Paramount Plus. A little program called Evil.
Oh.
Have you heard of this?
I have. Farah's watched the first season and then hasn't done the second yet because there was a long break between seasons.
Yeah, pandemic-y stuff, I think.
Yeah.
I'm having to struggle to not say the title like Simon and Hecubus would.
Evil!
Yeah,
I did it.
Yeah. Every time Melissa comes in and says, "What are you watching?" I can't help but blurt that out. Or like, so on tonight's episode of Evil!
I get the reference. Maybe a handful of others in our listening group will as well.
Hopefully. It's not great TV, but it is a thoroughly entertaining show with a bunch of good and wacky fucking performances. And I don't know. It's kind of insane. So
I've never actually watched it. Like I said, my wife watched the first season, and before she started the second, she mentioned that she would be into rewatching the first season if I wanted to catch up with her. So maybe we'll just do that because we're kind of dry on stuff to watch right now.
Yeah. A real short summary of it is the main character, and I put that in quotes, is a psychiatrist who gets recruited by a seminarian who works for the Vatican investigating, like, miracles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's not nice miracles. It's like demon possession and shit like that.
The most beautiful miracle of all.
Yeah. Bringing demons to life.
I did walk into one scene she was watching where the dude was like tied up in a hospital bed And I watched that scene with her, and it was very disturbing and uncomfortable to me. He was like, he needed to escape, but he couldn't convince like it was just a normal hospital, except one doctor was, I don't know. It was very disturbing scene the way they did it. I thought it was good. That's what made me interested in the show.
I know exactly the episode you're talking about, which I think is something for a lot of shows. Like, yeah, I know instantly what you're talking about. It, like, the thing is, and it's that show is created and run by the same people who did The Good Wife and The Good Fight. And
wow, The Good Wife, The Good Fight, and Evil. One of these things is different.
The next one will be The Evil Fight.
Yes.
But they, I think it's Robert and Michelle King are the creators, and they somehow know to thread this needle of like this completely hyperbolic, like totally ridiculous bullshit, but still make it like entertaining and character based. Like that they're really good at making shows just absolutely as ridiculous as they could possibly be. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, this seems correct. Like, this seems absolutely right and normal. Sure, why not?
Well, that scene I watched didn't seem ridiculous. It was just weirdly uncomfortable to me. But in an entertaining way, I should put it that way.
Yeah, they, like, and there were also some episodes of The Good Fight where they turned chunks of it into, like, really effective little horror movies. I mean, just...
Cool.
Just, like, they're very good at hiring people to do that. So, yeah, recommendo for Evil. Evil!
And Evil in general, we also recommend.
That's true.
All right. Speaking of campy, however you were describing what they do, but yet still interesting and compelling, I think that's about as good a segue as we're going to get into our proper topic today.
Yes. Max Headroom, 20 minutes into the future.
So, do we want to start? I guess we usually start with talking about our personal attachments to whatever property we're going over, if we have any. Do you have any personal attachments or memories of Max Headroom from your childhood?
I do. Let's see. As discussed on our Patreon commentary, I once won a small poster of Max Headroom
Nice.
at a taste test thing in, of all places, Council Grove. Not
Council
sure.
Grove, Kansas.
Yeah.
Why were you there?
My grandparents took me on a weird bus tour of the Flint Hills thing.
This is some hyper.
There's no
regional
way.
talk.
There's no way to not have that in this specific instance. And at the town square of Council Grove, there was a guy with a, I assume, folding table doing taste tests of New Coke and Pepsi. And you could get a poster if you correctly identified which was which.
Which I've never had a problem with, by the way. It's very clear to me.
Yeah, the Pepsi's the one that's nauseatingly sweet.
Disagree, but that's fine. It is sweeter, but I like sugar.
I had that. I was, of course, familiar with his television commercials for New Coke, Catch the Wave, etc. And I saw a number of episodes of the Max Headroom TV show, and I'm not sure exactly, I feel like they were being run on Cinemax or something.
Well,
but I could be totally fucking wrong about that.
They were, for my research, they were aired on ABC. But I do know that Cinemax basically funded the movie we're about to watch. It was like a combination of Cinemax and Channel 4 in England.
Yeah. And I think, and I could be wrong, I think Cinemax and ABC are like I don't know. They had the same corporate overlords or something at the time, maybe.
Well, I know Cinemax was owned by HBO at the time still, so
Was it? Okay.
I don't know exactly, but I do know one. Well, we're maybe getting ahead of ourselves. Spoiler alert: we are going to extend this into a two-parter because we're going to do the movie this week and then next week because Mike the Sailing Guy was so kind to grace us with 14 episodes of the television series.
Yes.
And I couldn't just sit there, let them burning a hole in my hard drive. I had to get after them. So we're going to cover that next week.
Yeah. And a number of those are available on YouTube if you want to. I didn't look to see if all of them were there, but so if you want to watch ahead.
If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, man, I have no fucking interest in Max Headroom. Why do I have to wait 2 weeks for these dipshits to cover some 80s Coke spokesperson? I would recommend, if you haven't done it already, get on YouTube and watch Max Headroom 20 minutes into the future. It is cheesy, the effects are bad, and it's grainy because it's probably recorded off the TV in 1985, but it's good. It's like it
is very extremely good and very extremely cyberpunk.
Yes. Josh and I watched it together for the Patreon, and we're both like, I've seen it 3 times now in the last 2 weeks because the first episode of the TV show is just an American remake of the British story. So and still into it, and I've been really into this Max Headroom deep dive. So I encourage you to ride along with us on this experience because I gotta say, when we started this podcast, I was hoping I would have some experiences like this where I find something new that I get excited about. And it would have never guessed in a million years that it was fucking Max Headroom. But I'm in. I think it's been really fun.
Yeah. I had, going in, I had some vague memories of, okay, I remember seeing this on TV at my next door neighbor's house. And then at some point in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, our friend Tony got a VHS, like, I don't know, pirated, like, ripped copy of this movie. And I remembered seeing it and liking it, but it's one of those things where, like, I kind of figured, okay, this might be fun just from the memories it drags up. I did not expect it to be actually pretty good. Like,
yeah. I mean, limited by the technology of the time, but
it's really good enough that it overcomes a lot of the very clunky, obvious problems it has with, special effects and just being a $7 Channel 4 production.
Although I didn't get actual numbers, but once Cinemax got involved, their budget was actually more than the special effects would lead you to believe. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
but it was the 80s. And computer generation of any kind was very expensive. So what they did come up with, I guess, is pretty impressive. It wasn't just the 80s. It was like deep 80s. It was 84 probably when they started production. So
yeah, I would assume so. Let's before we start talking about the movie proper, let's talk about Max Headroom, the genesis of Max Headroom as a character / concept.
Sure.
Which is a wild fucking story.
Yeah. I kind of figured what we'd do is talk about, like the genesis of Max Headroom up to the film, and then talk about the film, and then stop it there, and then the rest of the Max Headroom story we can talk about next week, because that's fucking crazy too.
Yeah.
Probably more crazy, because like anything in capitalism, what starts off as a critique will always be absorbed into the fucking machine, and Max Headroom absolutely does. But
yeah,
let's start at the beginning if you want to kick it off.
Okay, in the beginning, Channel 4, which was the independent channel in British broadcasting, decided that they were going to show some music videos. Because music videos were getting hot, so they wanted to have a music video program. They hired a couple of people whose names I had in my mind seconds ago, and I'm now pulling up on Wikipedia. I'm not sure if they were husband and wife or just creative partners team.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember the answer to that either.
Let's see. Annabelle Jankel and Rocky Morton, who had directed did a lot of commercials and a bunch of early music videos. One of their earliest music videos was for an Elvis Costello song that actually was the first utilization of CGI in a music video in 1979.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird video. There's not much CG in it.
So it's not Money for Nothing.
No.
The famous CGI music video.
Yes. Right up there with Black or White and Money for Nothing.
I guess those are two of the biggie CGI music videos.
Yeah. So they hire these two, and they run basically an ad agency. They hire them to come up with like some bumpers to show between the music videos to be able to let the audience know this isn't just a couple of randomly chosen music videos between commercials.
Right, and I think it's also worth pointing out that in the UK, the concept of a presenter talking to the audience was not a common thing as it was in America.
Yes.
That's a staple of American television, not British television. And so it was informing how they were doing this. Like they didn't want to just hire VJs like MTV had done at the time, but they wanted something similar. Because otherwise you're just radio on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, even radio has disc jockeys, so yeah.
Yeah, so they came up with the idea of, okay, what if instead of just having some bumpers with a VJ, because I think, and reading a couple of articles about it, I think it kind of leans into the real or perceived differences between UK audiences and American audiences. They thought, and I think it was a quote from Rocky Morton, who said that I wanted to get away from. I think youth are inherently suspicious of people coming on the TV or the radio and acting youthful and trying to connect with them. So what if we don't do that? Like, don't hire, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a first-gen DJ.
Well, yeah, those first-gen
VJ.
DJs were very polished, very professional.
Yeah.
Not super young, but definitely, like MTV changed over time and it got more diverse VJs. But that first generation was very like sweater vests and button-down shirts from what I remember.
Yeah, and even into like sort of the second generation of VJs, like, kind of late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
They were still very polished looks of, I'm the new wave guy.
Right.
That type of thing. So he decided...
They weren't no Ricky Rackman.
Yeah.
Who's on TikTok, by the way, if you're interested.
Is he? How's he doing?
He seems to be living the good life, huh?
Okay.
He's talking about metal and doesn't seem interested in new metal, or by new I mean NEW metal.
Yeah.
He mainly sticks to the 80s and 90s stuff, but
what's his weight doing these days?
He looks pretty good, honestly.
Good for him.
He's very gray, but he looks like an aging metal guy, and there are a lot of us out there now.
Yeah. So
anyway, continue.
Yeah, they decide that's fake. And British teens will not like that. If, some guy coming in, fake youth energy. So, what if we create a character that is obviously and inherently fake,
mm-hmm.
and sarcastic. And, oh yeah, we're gonna do some early CG at it.
Right.
And
they wanted him to be American, right?
Yeah, to make it seem more fake. And they wanted it very specifically like, in a sense, the lamest thing you could possibly be. Kind of a middle-aged, blonde American wearing a suit,
It's a fucking crazy idea.
Yeah. So they do this, and we can get into like some more stuff about like casting and like actually the special effects going into Max Headroom and stuff.
I know they originally wanted it to actually be a CGI presenter, but that quickly turned out to be way too expensive.
Yeah, way too much money. So they invent this character, and then, okay, remember, this started as Channel 4 saying, yeah, we'd like some bumpers to show between music videos, just to, like, show that this is a show. And then, after this amount of work and character development had gone into it, they decided, well, I guess we need to make an hour-long movie to explain the origin of this character, which exists.
That's the jump I had a hard time finding info on when I was researching this. Like, why did they determine that this character needs a backstory? I had a hard time figuring that out, other than they just, like, wanted to.
I don't know. I couldn't figure out if it was Channel 4 going like, well, this is far too complex to explain to the audience. We need a backstory for this character, like classic studio notes.
But us in America, a lot of our, well, at least me, my first experience with the character was mainly through advertising, and I didn't look at this cool character who talked funny and had a rotating weird background thing. I didn't be like, where did this guy come from? What's his deal? Of course,
yeah,
I was like 7, so take it with a grain of salt.
I could find no answers as to whether the channel was more responsible for that, or maybe the creators were just like, well, hey, you know what? If you give us some extra movie, we'll give you an hour of content. And then made 20 minutes into the future.
Yeah.
In which Max barely appears.
Yeah, he's not...
Not that he appears a ton in the TV show either.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm only at the beginning of the TV show, but he's more like the family pet in the TV show that everybody tolerates. I actually love it, to be honest. Yeah. I would have hated it if I was like a big fan of the character and then tuned into the TV show. But as someone who's, as an adult, preferred the movie to the character, I love the way it's done in the TV show. Anyway, the TV shows.
Yeah, absolutely. So then they made a movie about the dystopian future.
Definitely dystopian.
Yeah.
Like a pretty rough dystopia from how it's presented.
It's not great. Where major corporations run the world, especially
media corporations.
And one of these media corporations has enlisted a psychotic child to create a way of compressing 30 minutes of 30 seconds of advertising into 3 seconds, which makes people explode sometimes.
Just some people. Just
only pensioners, the elderly, and the unemployed? Was that it?
Yeah, the way it's described is that there are electrical charges that everybody has stored within them. If they were to expend themselves on their own, you would hardly notice. But if they all go off at once, it basically causes a person to self-destruct. And
burst into flames and then do Raiders of the Lost Ark final act.
But it's only a problem for overweight people and extremely sedentary people who don't, what they're implying is who don't get out and go to work and, be cogs in the machine of the society.
Yeah.
So their reasoning is that if these people die, big deal. They weren't providers anyway.
So yeah, classic dystopian corporation shit. Like this is foundational level cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah, it very, very much is. And when they, I don't know if we should get into the world it's in, as it's presented, there's only a few shots of life outside of, to be honest, mainly just the Channel 23 building.
Yeah.
But it's pretty bleak. There's TVs everywhere. Everybody's like addicted to television is what they're kind of implying, which I can see how in 85 that'd be a point people were trying to make.
Yeah.
There's televisions everywhere. They're eating rats. They're living...
Burning garbage.
Of course, that's every dystopia. I'm trying not to confuse the TV show that dives in a little deeper with the movie.
Yeah.
Because the movie doesn't really show a lot, but...
No, it's an hour, or actually less, 50 some odd minutes, so...
But basically, you've got super poor living on the street watching TV because you got nothing else in life, or you're a rich corporate executive type.
Yep. Yeah, classic cyberpunk setup.
Cannot identify with that in the least.
No. So our main character is exciting, roving investigative reporter Edison Carter, played by Matt Frewer.
Did you read about how he was cast? Is it worth mentioning?
I don't know. I mean, let's see. What I understood about how he was cast is that somebody saw a picture of him and went, boy, that guy has extremely chiseled features.
Yeah.
Seems like he would make a good CGI head.
I actually read that his friend auditioned and didn't get it, but recommended him. And
oh, yeah. I read that as well, actually.
But yeah, he had the look they were going for, which I think is the biggest thing. And
Yeah.
Matt Frewer, I like most things he's in. Like, he's a good actor, so...
He is a guy who has done absolutely the best you can possibly fucking do with his career. Like,
Really?
the motherfucker has never stopped working, like, since 1985. He's constantly on shit.
Before that. He was working before that.
Yeah. He's constantly in something or other. Movies, network TV shows, cable TV shows, video games, and he is very good in all of them. Like, he was, I think the last thing I can think of that I saw him in was Orphan Black. I'm sure I've seen him in something since then.
That's the last memorable thing.
Yeah, but he was fucking great. I remember when he first showed up on that show, I thought, oh, Matt Frewer, Max Headroom. That's good. And, and he can go to any fucking fan convention in the world for every program he's ever been on.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been, like, the only major franchise that I am aware of that he hasn't been a part of is, like, Star Wars.
Right. Imagine being Max Headroom. Like, such this weird pop culture blip that it was in the 80s. And then just going on and living your life as a working actor, just knowing I was this thing. Like, a lot of actors
was on the cover of magazines, and
a lot of actors will go down in history for their work, but few of them make a pop culture impact like that and then just disappear into the crowd. Like, he doesn't disappear, obviously. He works forever, and a lot of people know about him, but he's not like, like an A-list or anything.
Yeah, he's not like Chris Evans, who can't walk down the fucking street.
Right.
Or, yeah.
It's just I gotta wonder what that's like to be a part of such a massive pop culture thing and then just go back to life.
Yeah.
It's got to be cool, right?
I mean, really, it has to be. Especially in his case where he's just been in so much shit. Like, you see, like Dylan Neal, or actually Vanderbeek has done it a couple of times, where they'll post, like, a picture of the 13-cent checks that they get for, some rerun of something somewhere.
Yeah.
He has been in enough shit. He must he is almost certainly bringing in like real fucking money all the time just for fucking residuals on the 5-episode arc of Supernatural, or the 3 episodes on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and
There's a writer I follow on TikTok who does like a monthly opening of his residual checks, and they add up fast. When he's like $20, $20, $30, $50, $80, $150, and by the end of it, it's like, oh, he just banked $3,000 in about 15 checks just for shit he's written on. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting, but I like Max Fuhrer. I like Edison Carter more in this movie than in the TV show. We can get to that, I guess, next week.
Yeah.
Edison Carter's, there's slight differences between the two, what they wanted for a British audience versus an American audience. And
apparently what they wanted for an American audience was pervert?
Yeah. They misunderstood.
Kind of a creep.
Yeah. Like the line between ladies' man and creep was blurrier in the 80s, I guess.
Apparently, yes.
And he straddles it pretty close in this movie, but I think he stays on the good side of creep in the British movie.
Yeah.
Because I guess we should talk about other characters, or how do you want to do it? You want to just go through the plot like we have in the past?
Yeah, let's just go through the plot and talk about the characters as they come up. I mean,
all right.
And if we have more thoughts on them at the end, we can.
So it opens with Edison Carter basically in a helicopter approaching a building where he's got a tip on a hot story. He is the Hotshot reporter for Channel 23. He's very famous. Everybody watches TV. Everybody watches the news. So everybody kind of knows who Edison Carter is.
Yeah.
And he is going after this news story. They're kind of vague with it. There's
been a fire or an explosion in apartment 42 or something.
Yeah. But as he gets there, he's locked out of it, and this is presented like not straight on, but like over radio transmissions with his control base.
Yes.
So, and another thing that feels incredibly cyberpunk to me, the reporter in the field has a camera, and through that camera, they're connected to the control room, where they have a controller, I think is what they're called, who basically keeps them safe and directs them what they can do and where they can go. And then there's also a producer who I guess puts the show together.
Yeah, that's correct. It's very much a fucking SenseNet run scenario.
Yeah, it is. It really adds to the cyberpunk feel of the thing. I like how they set it all up, because you're a team basically. I mean, in some cases you're just a 2-man team, but you're definitely rely on one another to get the job done.
Yeah, the controller is combined Google Maps, Google search, hacker, like trying to get you in to get the story or get you out safely.
Right, and they can tell you where the cops are, where the security is, so you can. One disconnect I kind of had with this is Channel 23 is this all-powerful corporation. They're pretty hands-off in their news department. They just kind of let them break what stories they want. I mean, in the very beginning, we see they end up squashing this story, but they don't have a leash on head reporter Edison Carter.
No, they definitely don't. He's a rebel. He's a renegade. He just follows the stories where they go, man.
Yeah, very, very 80s themed.
Yeah. So he's trying to get in the story. The network, through the producer and the controller, shut it down. He gets beaten up by the cops.
His controller, by the way, is a piece of shit who's reading a newspaper as he's doing this and obviously not really caring about what's happening to Edison, which is what leads to him getting his ass kicked.
Yeah. So he goes back and through the producer gets assigned a new controller.
Not before popping his current controller in the mouth.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he did pop Gorister pretty good.
Because he's a loose cannon.
Yeah. So he gets this new controller, Theora, whose last name I can't remember. Anyway,
Jones.
Jones, okay. She is played by Amanda Pays, who was the love interest on the 1990 Flash TV series, starring our favorite John Wesley Shipp.
Who, if you are new to our stuff, John Wesley Shipp plays Dawson Leary's dad in Dawson's Creek. So the connection, it's a very important connection for us.
Yeah.
Any connection we can get to the creek, we will take and relish.
Yeah, why wouldn't we?
Sorry, I was just going to say Theora is a badass controller. She's
the best.
Right, she's the best. And her entrance in this show is very fucking cool because she's got like this baby blue trench coat and she like walks in lit from behind. She's the hyper competent female counterpart to our kind of out of control male protagonist.
Yeah.
I would like to point out that's 3 goddamn things we watched with this setup in it.
Yeah, that was something that I thought of when I was rewatching it. And also one of the things that I was thinking of was like, okay, so now it's pretty common. It's pretty common anymore to have the hacker character on any given TV show or movie be a lady.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this is the first instance of that. Like, because this was pretty early in hackers kind of as a concept. So
I mean,
wonder...
when I think of a hacker, I think of, Angelina Jolie with her little haircut, with a little pixie cut.
Pixie cut? Yeah.
Yeah. She's the hacker image in my mind.
Yeah, obviously. But yeah, I wonder if she's the first, like, sort of, because she, even though they don't say it, she is doing a lot of hacking stuff.
That's...
Yeah.
Yeah, she's...
That's like her whole job, basically.
Yeah, she's Case's job in... basically she's doing what Case does in Neuromancer.
So she's showing off what she can do and shows Edison a conversation in the executive bathroom on, I can't remember what floor, 126 or something.
Right.
And
we should also point out how she does this is by using her computer to follow a 3D map of the Channel 23 building, which is a massive building. They keep showing these landscape shots, and Channel 23 is this one tower amidst the really crappy looking rubble and tinier, smaller buildings. So she has to physically go there in this 3-dimensional, worse than Wolfenstein 3D graphic.
Yeah.
Until she finds the bathroom. And then there's a camera in the bathroom for some reason.
Yeah. Because why not? So it's at this point that they get some hints that, like, oh, maybe Channel 23 was somehow responsible for the fire. Something concept of blipverts comes up.
Right.
So Edison Carter now has a new mission. I'm going to find out what these are. And with her help, he breaks into like the research floors of the Channel 23 building and sees the, quote, Rebus tape.
Right, which they had alluded to in a previous scene when the board of directors of Channel 23 watched the Rebus tape. It was footage, because apparently in this world, TVs are two-way, much like in 1984. Yeah. They don't explicitly state it, but I think what's his name, the kid, mentions, like, I was doing a standard audience check or something. Anyway, that's creepy. I would hate the fact that my TV could watch me.
Yeah. Yeah, many TVs do nowadays.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah, so it's this guy who's watching a blipvert for zigzag. Which basically seems like just an extremely sped up commercial.
Yeah.
And then he explodes. So.
Very graphically and cheesily.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Also, during the commission of this mission, Edison Carter finds a parrot and a computer-generated parrot, which squawks.
Oh, by the way, dude, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just looking at Matt Frewer's IMDb here. He's also in Escape from New York, which is on a list of movies. So this is not the last time we're going to see Matt Frewer on this podcast. And that
Who
makes me
the
happy.
fuck is he? Is he just some extra in Escape from New York? I do
Could
not
be.
remember him at all.
I don't know. It's just on his. He was also in Infinity Pool, a movie that's out right now that I almost watched instead of Knock at the Cabin, but went with Shyamalan instead because
Here, that one has cum shots.
the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So glad we got to talk about cum on this episode.
Hey, yeah. I don't know. How could we do an episode without talking about cum?
Actually, I might be wrong. I might be reading IMDb wrong. Anyway, he might not be in those things. Anyway, fuck off. I'm an idiot. Let's go on.
All right, sounds good. So he is discovered while he's discovering this by Bryce, the child genius psychopath who invented Blipverts and is a really good example of lawful evil. He just invented the bomb. He didn't drop it.
Yeah, that's the line he uses. I think Bryce is an awesome character. I prefer him in this to in the TV show.
Very much.
He is great and creepy and British and pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that he didn't have a bigger career than he did.
Yeah,
The actor.
he was genuinely off-putting.
Yeah, and the thing is, he is part of a tradition of young male British actors who play that like exact same kind of creepy like 12-year-old or 14-year-old thing. I mean, there are tons of them. Like I don't know, going into, if we wanted to talk about Doctor Who, we could for a while, but there are a dozen examples of that exact same character, and they're usually pale and blonde, and they're concerned with propriety. So the kid, because he doesn't want Edison to have seen the tape and then break a news story about it, hires a Scottish guy and a Liverpudlian to attack him. Apparently, these are the same people he had get him the parrot.
Yeah, I was trying to find their names. That's why I'm on IMDb, but IMDb doesn't have the full cast listing.
Bruegel and something.
Bruegel and Masumthin are our low-level street thugs.
Yeah.
That are they're kind of henchmen of the main bad guys.
Yeah.
Love them. I think they're awesome.
Tons of fun.
Yes, they're great characters. And yeah, they'll basically do anything for a buck. They'll work for anybody. They're reliable like that. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever, they are very, very loyal to whoever paid them last.
And very, very cyberpunk too. They dress the part, they look the part, they carry cyberpunky weapons. As they're running through the Channel 23 building looking for Edison, they're just kicking over ashtrays for no reason. They're just causing chaos.
Yeah, they fucking rule.
Classic chaotic evil characters.
Yeah. And Bruegel...
Or neutral, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say probably neutral. Yeah, Bruegel's constantly giving these weird fucking Shakespearean speeches for no reason.
Yeah. I fucking love these guys.
They're fun as shit.
Yeah.
So they chase Edison. Bryce causes... he's trying to get out of the building on a motorcycle. Bryce causes a wreck. Edison goes flying off the bike and smashes into a gate which says Max Headroom, 2.3 meters, and is put into a coma.
That's the last thing he sees.
That is. So, what happens then?
Well, after that, Bruegel and Miss Something recover his body and decide that they do with all bodies, breathing or not, they're going to take him to the body bank. And the body bank is this place that's just known as a place where you can sell corpses because they need organs in this world.
Yeah.
And I guess, as they find out, I guess this is news to them that you get more money for a living body than you do for a dead body.
Yeah.
Because consent is malleable. If someone's in a coma or knocked out, they're clearly not getting back up.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Theora is worried that she's lost her guy in the field. She runs out to the scene of his accident, and she gets very cinematic scenes because she's very beautiful. She comes running out in her trench coat as the sprinklers are going off in the underground garage, and sees the blood stain on the Max Headroom gate and gets to hunting him down.
Yeah. Oh, and there's the fun bit of the main network executive, whose name I can't remember. Grossman? Yeah.
The main bad guy, the guy that looks like, what's his name? The name I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember
Paul
that.
Giamatti.
Yeah. He says, "What the fuck are we going to do? You've killed our star reporter," to the genius kid. And the genius kid says, "Oh, it's no problem. I'll just scan him and we'll computer generate him like I did my parrot."
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I got ahead of myself. The two thugs take him up to the kid before they take him to the body bank, so the kid can scan his brain into a computer and make a computer-generated version that will present the news, so nobody will know that the star reporter is gone.
Yeah, he'll be able to file a couple of reports and then go on vacation and not come back or something, I think is the idea.
Right. So here we have another very cyberpunk concept of digital personalities, basically, right?
Yeah.
And Max Headroom becomes something of an AI after this kid uploads Edison's memories.
Yeah. So let's see. Then, because that needs to be kept safe, I'm not sure. That plot point's a little fuzzy.
Also, how they get rid of Max. It's very fuzzy. I cannot figure out. I think it's the kid not caring about the corporation he works for and only caring about his own work.
Yeah, so he gives the Max Headroom case to Bruegel and Maha, and they
the body. Because that's right, because the Grossman, the head of the network, thinks the Max Headroom plan, like once he sees it in action, he sees how glitchy Max is, he thinks it's stupid, and he tells the kid to kill it. He says, "This is dumb.
Because
it's
it's
never
clearly stupid."
Yeah. And he says, "Get rid of it." And you can see the kid has a little attachment because he refers to Max as a he, and Grossman corrects him and says, "It's an it. Kill it, and get rid of the body as well." That's how we get to the body bank with Bruegel and Massa.
So they drop off the body at the body bank, an extra 20% or an extra 20 points because he's famous and alive. And then they go and meet up with their friend Blank Reg, who's played by a great fucking English actor,
William Morgan Shepherd.
Yeah, W. Morgan Shepherd, who's the father of Mark Shepherd, who's on tons of shit. But Morgan Shepherd was on just like every fucking British TV show from roughly 1960 to 1999.
Yeah, he's worked a lot.
Yeah, and his son is trying to do the same thing. So Blank Reg is a punk, and he is also, although this is not elucidated on in the movie, the blank means that he doesn't have effectively a social security number.
Oh, so he's sinless.
Yes, he is sinless. So another cyberpunk thing.
Yeah, off the grid.
So he is this... At this point, the dude was 50 years old, 53, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing he lives till 2019 or whenever.
Yeah. But he runs a pirate TV station. Big time, big time, big time.
With his producer, Dominique, who I also quite enjoy.
Producer, lover, I don't know.
Yeah, they're vague about it.
Some sort of version of Patsy from Ab Fab. So he decides, I'll go ahead and plug this thing in just because, I don't know, we got it from our friend's Sting and Mahababa.
Yeah, I think is it Bryce? I don't know.
Bryce is the kid.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I've got the most of the cast up, and they've got Bruegel, but they don't have the other guy's name.
I saw, I don't remember his name. I looked him up the other night when we were watching.
They have the exploding man, Michael Kuehl.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that credit. So, at this point, Matt Frewer or Edison Carter wakes up in the
Mahler.
body bank.
Sorry, I found him. Mahler.
Okay. Yeah, sure. At this point, Edison Carter wakes up in the body bank and runs away.
Yeah, that's what I get.
I mean, I feel like there was some more plot there that was cut out or something.
Yeah, I kind of like the way that the TV show handled this part better. They changed it a little bit for the TV show, and Theora actually tracks him down and purchases him from the body bank and takes him home. As it is, he just kind of woke up and then called Theora and was like, I need your address because I got a crash. I don't know why he didn't go to his own home, but...
Because he's being hunted, obviously.
I guess, but he's really not because they just think he's dead.
Yeah, good point. So he's alive. He's in her bank lobby of an apartment.
Yeah, he goes to Theora's apartment, which is very much inspired from Blade Runner, I felt like. It just looked like a set out of Blade Runner. A lot of weird statues around and a massive bed with silk stuff.
It really does feel like a music video set.
Yeah, a music video set.
And a bank lobby. It just made me feel like, okay, so 30 odd years ago, I remember reading an article in Spin or Rolling Stone or something about how Aphex Twin, can't remember his real name, Richard something. He
Nixon.
lives in he lived in some moderately small town, like kind of on the edge of London, and had bought a bank that he lived in. And he also drove a tank around, actually an armored personnel carrier, but whatever. But it made me feel like that.
Yeah,
this is a bank lobby that a music star purchased the bank and then was like, I don't know, it's all marble. Let's throw a bed here.
Yeah. There's also a garage door because she drives her car into it later.
Yes,
which
also true.
Seems unsafe.
Yeah, it's not good.
Not good to sleep next to your vehicles, especially if they're running, unless you don't want to wake up. So,
but at this point, Max is on the air and he's getting famous.
Yeah, he's on the air on big time radio, and people are loving it. Big Time's ratings are going up, or Channel 23's are going down. So Channel 23 has to make a decision. They're going to reinstate blipverts because the whole point of blipverts, I don't know if we got into this, it condenses the commercial into 30 seconds, but the reason you want to into 3 seconds. The reason you want to do that is because a regular commercial gives people time to switch away, and you don't want people switching channels. Remember when switching channels was a thing?
Yeah.
You'd be watching a show and then a commercial would come up and you'd be like, I'm done with that show. Let's see what else there is.
Fuck that. Yeah.
Blipverts stop that. And sure, few people explode, but
they're only pensioners, the obese, and the elderly.
Right. It's okay. It keeps eyes on Channel 23. But this Max Headroom guy, he's threatening Channel 23. So they reinstate their blipvert program.
And then I don't know. This part of the program was a little rushed at parts.
Mm-hmm.
Then Edison Carter is trying to figure out exactly.
After his rest montage.
Yes, there was that.
Of him sleeping nude in her bed and changing positions several times. He basically decides he has to go back in, right?
Yeah.
Gotta watch this 3 times now, and I'm suddenly blanking on what happened.
Yeah.
Here.
I get it.
Okay. So the character, there was a character from the beginning that had a conscience and wasn't into the blipvert idea. He didn't like blowing people up.
Yeah,
and he
kind of looked like Brian De Palma, and he was like, maybe we shouldn't set people on fire.
Yeah, it's probably bad to be killing anyone, even if even if they're pores. So not realistic, let's
Yeah.
be honest. But he has existed, and he's what does he come in at this point? He's fighting against reinstating Blipverts. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Frewer or Edison Carter runs into him on the helicopter landing pad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was earlier though.
Oh, was it? Fuck. All right. I don't know. I've watched too much Max Headroom in the past couple of days.
Dude, it's been a lot of Max Headroom. And that character actually is a bigger role in the TV show.
Yeah.
So the important thing is Max finds himself back in the Channel 23 building. And not Max, Edison.
And he captures Bryce because he goes to the lab level. I mean, and
he just fucking walks in.
Yeah. He's like, "You're a bad kid." And then they get the CEO guy. It really wraps up very strangely.
How does it end? I've watched it 3 times. How come I can't remember the ending other than the shots of like Max Headroom talking to the CEO guy?
So he gets 2 bodyguards.
They show the Rebus tape to the world.
Yeah. And
that's right there. Okay, I was getting it confused. Yeah, they end up tricking. They Max or Edison somehow tricks the Grossman, the head of the network, and Bryce. He says, "I'm going to, I don't know what he's going to give you back Max Headroom," I think is what the plan was. But I need you to meet me at this such and such place. And for some reason, they hire Broiler and the other dude,
Bruegel and Muller,
Muller, to take them to this spot out in the wasteland so they can get Max Headroom back.
Yeah.
What they don't know is that Edison Carter has paid Bruegel and Muller, because as we said, they will work for anybody who pays them, to basically ambush them. Now, they've got bodyguards, but Bruegel and Muller take care of those bodyguards pretty quick. By once everyone's out of the truck, they just back the truck over the bodyguards.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's actually great. Yeah. And I'm surprised I'd forgotten that it happened.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, they get this is how they get the Rebus tape, right? I think they were going to trade for the Rebus tape or something.
And it kind of leaves the fate of Grossman and Bryce up in the air. Like, it's kind of implied, I don't know, maybe Bruegel and Muller will sell them for parts, but it's uncertain.
Well, they're definitely selling those bodyguards for parts because immediately upon backing them over, they load them up in the truck.
Yeah.
I love Bruegel and Muller so much.
Yeah,
Muller.
They're fun.
But yeah, and I don't know, maybe they thought this show, they'd get more out of this at some point in the future.
Yeah.
On Channel 4. They did in America, but maybe they thought they would in Britain.
Yeah. So then that's basically the end of it. Edison Carter exposes Blipverts are blowing people up. But by the way, I'm still going to work for Channel 23. And Max Headroom.
It's the only place to work for.
Yeah, good point.
Other than, I guess you could work for Big Time.
Yeah. And Max Headroom is in the Big Time RV with Blank Reg and Dominique, and they're going to go on the run and keep broadcasting their incredibly popular, vaguely racist CG satire thing.
Yeah, so Max Headroom, the actual character Max Headroom only tells a few jokes. Most of them are ethnic jokes about mostly Asian people.
Yeah. And they're very much in the model of like you would read in a joke book. Like,
yes,
how
he actually says with friends like these, who needs enemas?
Yeah. Like some sort of how to connect with your boss joke book.
Yeah, exactly.
Circa 1972. How many Polacks does it take? That type of thing.
The Max Headroom of the TV show is much funnier than the Max Headroom of this movie, but you could see where he was going. He hadn't been a character yet. The clips I've heard, in fact, we started this episode in the cold open with a clip of Max from the music video show, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pretty funny on the music video show from the clips I've heard.
Yeah.
So, but this I think they were just kind of starting and kind of learning, and so they just basically tell a couple of really cheesy jokes that everybody's heard before, just to show this guy's a chuckle fuck. This guy likes to fuck around.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
just
not like Edison.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's it. I mean, like,
That's basically it. Yeah.
Overall, it is incredibly fucking enjoyable for how crappy it is. Like, just kind of quality-wise.
Right.
Um,
Our retelling, I don't know, should we be retelling shows like this? I don't know. Let us know if this is how we should go about talking about media. But it's the only way I can think of to get to points and point out specific instances without taking notes while I watch it, which I hate doing.
yeah, that's tough.
But yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it's very poignant and very even in today's landscape, even though obviously TV has changed a lot.
Yeah.
There's no channel switching really to be worried about, but 24-hour news is very definitely a thing. Media or corporate controlled news is very definitely a thing. And I find it mind-blowing that the social messages that this thing was portraying got popular on, like, they're critiquing the thing that's paying their paychecks.
Yeah.
And they did for a while, and it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing that at least it feels like, oh yeah, this couldn't be anything other than British.
Yeah.
Because to some
I mean,
extent
they did it on the American TV show, though.
Yeah, but I think the origins of it couldn't be anything other than British. I don't think that, like, okay, because I think Max Headroom, and this we'll probably talk about more on next week's show, he first appeared in the U.S. as advertising.
Did
so
he?
I think
We'll
I believe
have to
so.
find that out.
Yeah. So it's, since a bunch of British, a lot of British media at that time was fairly, you had a bunch of social realist playwrights and stuff like that making the move to TV. Like, there's a lot of fairly subversive shit appearing on British TV in the 80s. And also it helped that they had a really convenient enemy in Thatcher.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just trying to remember, like, I don't remember the 80s as being a particularly rebellious time and having, I mean, obviously it's when cyberpunk was born, so it clearly was, but I don't know how this achieved such mainstream success.
Yeah, I think it's partially just because it's fucking weird.
Yeah, and the aesthetics were there, and
the aesthetics were exactly right, like fucking weird spinning neon lines, and like, it's computers, which are the cool new thing.
people in that time, I remember like the Phil Collins videos. People loved like rubber prosthetics on a face.
I hate that fucking thing.
It creeped me out as a kid. It still creeps me out, but people were into that in the 80s. It's something I remember from the 80s anyway.
Like, and the thing is, Max Headroom never tripped that same thing as those horrible fucking like that Genesis video, and I can't remember the company that did that, but
yeah,
like, Max Headroom never tripped the same thing for me, and I didn't find it as disturbing. Oh yeah, I don't think we mentioned that Max Headroom was created entirely with aesthetics or prosthetics and like a fiberglass suit and weird contacts. It wasn't CG at all.
Yeah, not at all. Even the background was, I think, is just standard. I mean, it was probably CG in the background.
Yeah, the background was CG off an Amiga of some sort.
Yeah, just a spinning effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically the history of the film that started it all. We're not probably going to talk much about the music video show because there's really not much to find. I mean, I found some clips on YouTube and it seemed pretty good, but
yeah,
there's not much really to get into other than it's Max Headroom telling jokes, and then they play an 80s music video.
Yeah, that's pretty much the gimmick.
But shall we rate this one?
Yes. Let's see. How did we rate it? How did we rate these things? What were the categories? I forget.
Well, the categories are story, influence, I guess like prescience and their dystopian predictions, and style. So as far as the story goes, I think it's got a pretty strong cyberpunk story. Not anything groundbreaking, but I would give it a solid 7.5 for me.
Okay. Okay, we're doing this on a 1 to 10 scale.
1 to
All right.
10.
Okay. I would say probably an even 7. I mean,
7?
like, the story is good and solid. There are definitely some parts where things become a bit confusing, or they just sort of accelerate over something that they couldn't figure out an explanation for.
Fair. Maybe 7.5 is a little high. But I'll stick with it. Next we have influence, and I actually wanted to bring this up because I don't know what I can say about this movie in specifically, but this movie obviously influenced the direction that the TV show would take, and therefore the direction that Max Headroom would take, because like I said, the TV show's first episode is a shot-for-shot remake of this. So I was thinking, like, Max Headroom actually has pretty decent influence on the world. Do you think Jim Carrey would exist in his current form if he hadn't been watching this as a young guy?
It's a good question. Yeah, couldn't tell you.
The similarities are striking.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, like a bunch of Jim Carrey's moves are Max Headroom things, now that you mention it.
Very similar in a lot of ways. And then
Max Headroom also just keeps cropping up. I mean,
yeah, he was in that Pixels movie,
which I haven't seen.
I haven't. I hear it's really bad.
Yeah, there was an Eminem video from like 8 years ago, something like that featured him made up to look like Max Headroom. I believe it was Rap God. I watched the video. It is shockingly homophobic.
Okay.
Like, boy, would not have expected that to be 2014, that language.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marshall Mathers.
Yeah. There's a fun Selena Gomez video where she has she does some Max Headroom shit. I can't remember the name of the song. It's something involving love.
Yeah, and I think that the way they did his speech with like the repeating, I think it has a pretty good amount of influence. I think I'm going to give that a solid 7 as well.
It has kind of a weirdly impressive amount of influence for something that lasted 1.5 seasons.
Right.
And was never a huge hit that I could tell.
It burned bright and fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 7 is a very reasonable way to do influence. Like,
okay.
And it's also one of those things, like, looking at the Max Headroom clips, I think about how much of my view of the 80s is because of these clips that, like neon spinning shit behind him. And I feel like it's because this was 1985.
Yeah.
It feels like that was the back half of the 80s, like spinning neon fucking, that was the 4th time that Ray-Ban Wayfarers became popular.
Yeah, I still wear them to this day.
I feel like 7's a very, maybe a conservative rating for how influential it was.
It could be, yeah, I agree. And maybe we'll change it after next week and we dive a little deeper into the actual more pop culture aspects of it. All right, next is the dystopia, the prescience of the world
10.
that it takes place in. You're giving it a 10?
I mean, okay, I'll go 9.5 because I don't know the address of a body bank near me. But
Yeah, I don't think I'd go quite that high, but I think I'd go 8.5. I do think we could get to that world. I just think some of the things of the 80s held it back. Like, once again, no cell phones.
I feel like literally at any moment we could be 3 weeks from exactly this world.
All right.
Like, I mean, there is nothing in Max Headroom that couldn't be done in under a month in reality.
Yeah, I agree. Our last category is style. Max Headroom has its very own style. It's very cheesy in an 80s way, but it's definitely there, and I would probably rate it. I got to give it a 9 because I fucking loved it.
I want to go.
It's gonna be different for everybody. I have a feel.
Yeah.
Some people might think it was stupid.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna give it an 8, but I don't know. And part of that might be it's bleeding out. Like, that rating is being bled down by parts of style that ended up in either prescience or influence.
Yeah. Sure, it's not a foolproof system we've come up with here, but I really like just everything they did. Like the way the people look, the way Blank Reg looks, his super punk rock motif, and his producer looks completely different in this weird like goth smoking clove cigarettes, and
she clearly rules.
Everything about they're driving he's a punk, she's a goth or something, and they're driving this bright pink RV with TV antennas on top. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's that whole setup is great.
They were limited by a budget, but I feel like they did everything they could, right down to the CGI parrot.
Yeah, it's a great CGI parrot.
All right, let me add these up because these ratings matter. Damn it, I'm writing them down in a little notebook.
I give this program 4.5 hand raisers out of 5.
I think I agree. I think we can come together on that.
I mean, regardless of all the ratings we just had, I really enjoyed it. Like, it's
I think
goofy, dumb bullshit. It's also incredibly prescient and like tons of fun. So glad we chose this for this week.
I agree. We needed it after the last, because it's still dark in the way cyberpunk's supposed to be dark, but it's also fun in the way some cyberpunk doesn't manage to pull off.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like our first
Blank Reg eating fucking beans out of a can.
SpaghettiOs.
Yeah.
Alphabetos, because then what's his name? Mahler has one stuck to his face in the next scene. When he also Blank Reg, and it's held true in the TV show too. Whenever somebody enters his RV, he offers them uncooked SpaghettiOs, which is so gross. But going back to our ratings, I think our 1 to 5 is just a general, like, personal, how much did we like it? The other things I think are more critical of what we're trying to look for. I don't know what we're doing. I just like rating things.
Yeah, why not?
Because, like, Strange Days, its rating was tanked because its influence was so low because it did so poorly, but it doesn't mean we didn't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, how much we enjoyed something has nothing to do with
how good it is.
Yeah.
Or how cyberpunk or how influential. Anyway, our ratings for this one, I gave it an 8. You gave it a 7.87. We both gave it a 4.5 hand raisers out of 5. And I think that's fair. It was a lot of fun. And I don't know how the TV show will hold up, but we'll get to that next week. We've already talked an hour and a half about Max Headroom. We've got another probably hour and a half to go. So,
oh boy.
Probably fair. The first 30 minutes was not necessarily all about it.
Yeah, dick around bullshit.
I hope people can enjoy this. I hope that if you were on the fence, you'll take an hour to watch Max Headroom 20 minutes into the future, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's less time than you took to listen to our bullshit. And
true.
Probably more worth it.
That's also true. All right. Until next week, let's do some promotions. I would like to humbly request that you give us a follow on YouTube. We have very few subscribers over there. The show does release simultaneously on YouTube as it does on the podcatchers. So if you could just give us a follow up, bump our numbers up. I think we have to hit a certain threshold of followers before we can live stream. And I got some live streaming ideas. I'd like to live stream like playing a Shadowrun video game or
that'd be fun. Yeah.
Or Cyberpunk 2077 or something like that. But I think you need a certain number of followers before you can do that. So follow us on YouTube, por favor.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm actually pulling up YouTube right now to make sure that I am subscribed to it. I do not appear to be.
Well, great. Now we're up to 7.
Good times. Couldn't even find it when I just searched for High Tech Low Life. I'll find it after the show. Yeah, that would be good. If you want to give our Patreon a look, as it says in the end credits, please do that. If you're not already subscribed.
And I guess I should just say that to find all this shit, the Patreon, the YouTube, everything else, we have a link tree. It's linktree/hightechlowlife. So that's linktr.ee/hightechlowlife.
Hooray.
It's got all our shit on it. And
does it even have our personal tweeters?
No, it's got all our podcasts. So our personal tweeters are me at the frog with a 0 and him at ace_Collins.
Yeah, that's correct. Let's end this program now. How's your head?
Great. How's yours?
That didn't work as well as I hoped.
Definitely
Bye.
not between us. Bye.
This has been the High Tech Low Life podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds. Email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com. And find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music provided by Neolore at neolore.com. Thank you for listening.
Excuse me, Robo, any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Ow!
Stay out of trouble.